I think you write about what you know about, and I knew about that. And I wrote a book that was neither pro-Catholic nor anti-Catholic, as you know. It was just simply about the Catholic way of life, because I believe that Catholics do share a way of life, just as Jews do, just as any ethnic group does. And I think it had been ignored, that people either wrote books out of anger or they wrote books out of belief, and so they're either very positive or very negative. And my books were really humorous social commentaries on a way of life. In fact, one of the nicest compliments I ever got, I was at a party on the Southside of Chicago, and this woman had a teenage daughter who was giving her a very difficult time. And the daughter said, "I don't understand you. I just don't understand how you think." And this woman said to me, she said, I turned around and handed her your books and said, "Read these and you will." So I thought that was a nice compliment. Mm-hmm. And it is a way of life. And I guess having traveled the nation the way I do, I've discovered that being on the South Side of Chicago is different.
In what ways?
Much more direct.
Yep.
I often say Southsiders have a slide that goes from their brain to their mouth. And I've often said PR people do not grow up in the South Side of Chicago, because they say what they have to say, and if you don't like it, too damn bad. And you know, when I was growing up, and a friend of mine pointed this out, today kids are held responsible for anything. I was held responsible for everything. You know, and then blame me for the Korean War, as I recall. But you know, today your father has a heart attack because he ate wrong, or he didn't exercise, or it's the genes. When I was growing up, your father had a heart attack because of you! You gave him a heart attack! Isn't that true, that you were held responsible for everything? So it was a very different world. In fact, when I was growing up in the South Side of Chicago, you'd watch a Cubs game and you'd think, what kind of job do you have that you can leave at noon?
Yeah.
You don't watch a day game. It's like, you know, because Comiskey Park, the old White Sox Park, really was a factory without a roof. It looked like that. And that's the kind of team you had, so it was very different. I remember when I turned in The Last Catholic in America the first time, and I got a call from the editor, and he said, "What's a 2 flat?" I said, "Well, it's higher than a 1 flat, and it's lower than a 3 flat." He said, "What's a prairie?" I said, "Well, it's a vacant lot." He goes, "We don't know what you're talking about here in New York. A prairie is Montana." And I said, "Well, too bad." And I didn't change a word, because that's the way you talk in Chicago. But the interesting thing I found, if you write about Chicago or the South Side of Chicago, you're very parochial in your thinking. But if you write about New York, like Woody Allen, you're universal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but Chicago is much more representative of the world. In fact, there was a piece on AOL recently that talked about how, if you want, not AOL, there was some television show, but it talked about how if you wanted to really get a taste of America quickly, you came to Chicago. And I think the South Side, that's more true than it is in the North Side. North Side, you have a lot of foreigners. You know, people from other cities in America who come for just a few years to move up the corporate ladder and then move on. But Southsiders live, I mean, you married the girl next door, you moved 3 blocks away kind of thing. So a friend of mine that I met once said to me, you can't get on a bus on the South Side of Chicago where you're not related to someone or they're a friend of yours, one of them. They're rarely the same, they're rarely both, but that's the way it is. You know everybody, so.